I'm with Shmuel Junger from Christian Friends of Israeli Communities. Now, Shmuel, what is Christian Friends of Israeli Communities?
Shalom, first of all. Good to be here. So, Christian Friends of Israeli Communities, it's an organization that's been around for more than 25 years, basically connecting Christians around the world and Jewish communities based in Judea and Samaria. We love to call it the biblical heartland. The Judea and Samaria is always an area of dispute, right? In the CNN, you can call it, in the BBC, the West Bank, occupied territories. And we connect this area to the biblical perspective. And we talk about the fact that this area is an area that 70% of everything you read in the Bible happen in this region. Communities use the same name as their perspectives of places in the Bible. So all of Judea and Samaria is one of the strongest bonding connections to the Jewish people. And we're connecting Christians to this concept.
Is West Bank a political term? And you never find it in the Bible, do you?
Of course. Yeah. First of all, some people don't understand what's even the terminology West Bank means. So of course we're talking about the banks of the Jordan River. There's the East Bank, which represents Jordan right now, and on the left side, West Bank is the Judea and Samaria area, the Jordan Valley, and all the mountains in between. Of course, this is a terminology that is being used on a very, very late stage. All of this area are the mountains and the hills of Judea and Samaria, as we hear and we read about in the Bible, in the prophecies of Amos and others. So all these terminology that talks about the region as West and East Bank is not relevant to us, neither the occupied territories. All of this area is our roots and the connections to the land. And to be honest, if there's anything that connects Jewish people to the land, is the fact that we're Jews and this area is called Judea. So it's already something that starts there. And the fact that we still need to negotiate and to explain that, it's a bit funny for me.
Are you pioneers? And what are you doing in that community, in that area?
Let's start from the beginning. Story of Judea and Samaria started in 1967. Israel was established in 1948, but for 19 years, Judea and Samaria wasn't part, was still under the Jordanian regime, and it was released and was liberated only in the 6 Days War. Those areas basically isolated, basically there was nothing around it. And Jewish people came from throughout Israel to be really modern day pioneers. We call pioneers people that came and worked hard and struggle on this certain situation until the next generations are enjoying themselves. The issue is that while in 67 people started to come here, the challenges we are facing are still here. Judea and Samaria still is an area with a lot of security issues. There's terror attacks all over the place. Right now Israel is under the impression of the 7th of October. But if you think about it, anything that happened before and even today, talking about roads that are not safe. I'm talking about communities that terrorists are trying to penetrate, to stab, to attack, to shoot. It's just not it's not a safe area. And people here, if you ask me, what are they doing here? They're just trying to live their life. So we have people throughout the regions working from various things, from being doctors, lawyers, teachers, high-tech industry, agriculture, everything, literally everything. There's nothing special in what they work in. The only issue is that on the way to their homes and back, sometimes they're being faced with challenges, with security issues, and with people stoning their cars. This is a really tough situation that we need to face day to day. And this region is filled with, every community has so many casualties throughout the years, from the years of the Oslo Accords, from the Intifada, and many other events that all of you remember. How this area would always be a challenging place to live. So we're trying to survive and we're trying to live our life as quiet as possible. And we need to face the challenges around us.
I was going to ask you if it is it safe for a Jew to live there. Have you faced terrorist attacks or stones throwings and things like that yourself personally?
So I can tell you that I had one incident. Let's before starting to talk about me, I'll talk about the region. To be honest, it is a place that on a regular basis, just to continue live your life, you cannot really think about it every day. Because if you drive out of your home, come back with every day thinking, I might be stoned, I might be shot, you won't be able to survive. It's just a lot of mental pressure. And in the bad times of the Intifada and the Oslo Accords, I'm talking about people being shot on the streets, almost like a Russian roulette. People did not know if they wake up in the morning and they go home, will they come back? I need to say that in the last couple of years, it's much, much safer. But only 2 weeks ago, 5 minutes from where I'm located right now, there was a terror attack in the middle of the road. Two ladies, almost 70 years old, and another guy, 35, was shot to death. So it is a concern. On a personal note, I can tell you that I always mention the fact that my son, he learned in a school that is nearby our community, and he needs to drive to school on a bulletproof bus. I will repeat that. He needs to drive to school on a bulletproof bus because these are the hazards and these are the situations that they need to face here when sometimes the enemy, the terrorists, they want to go and they want to attack our people, our cars, our just kids. So I wanted to share my story, and I will say that one day, it was nighttime, I was driving to my community, and there's a procedure that happens here. Basically, as I was driving, a car behind me drove really, really fast just to hit me from the back of the car. And the instincts is that when somebody hits you, is like you stop in the side and you go out and to see what is the damage. But the way they do it is that when you come out of your car, the people jump in you, they throw you to the side, and in the good case, they only take your car. In the bad case, they also shoot you. So thank God my instincts were sharp, and I immediately, after being hit by this car, I continued to drive as fast as possible to the nearest soldiers checkpost. So nothing happened to me on a personal note. But I can tell you that all of us here know personally many others that were attacked, that were shot at, that lost family members, or their family members and friends were injured. That's a reality of life here.
For those who don't know, what is a settlement? And is this an area that the world is pressuring Israel to make into a Palestinian state? And is that biblical?
So the word settlement is a word, and you have the better English than I have. Settling sounds something new, right? They came to an area and they settle it. Almost there's a terminology here. It's a bit illegal. And people who look at Judea and Samaria that we occupied an area that's not ours, they call it the settlement to say, this is not your place. What are you doing here? And that's why, Paul, I started this conversation by declaring our connection to this area is biblical. When we are back here in the land after 2,000 years of exile, we look at this area as God's given decision to give this place to the Jewish people, to his kids, to Abraham. Abraham stood 5 minutes, 10 minutes from where I stand right now in the Oak of Moreh, facing the city of Shechem, when God told him in Genesis 12, this is going to be your land. So calling our communities settlements is basically, disagreeing to the Bible and all of our history. And yes, as you said, there is a voices of pressure that talk about abandoning this place, live this place, give it to the Palestinians. If you want to, try to think of what we answer this question, I think at this point of stage of mind, it's quite easy to explain. I just want to remind the people here that this area in 2005, there were many Jewish communities living in the area of Gush Katif, formerly known as Gaza Strip. And they were called also settlements. And there was also pressure to leave those areas. Why are you doing there? It's not your place. And our communities there were taken away. Our prime minister, our government decide that we need to evacuate the area. And the area of the Gaza Strip was free of Jews. No settlements. Nobody lived there. The 7th of October was the response to that. In 2005, since 2005, there's no Jewish people in the Gaza Strip. They were able to plan it, build the tunnels, prepare, gear up to the awful attack of the 7th of October and the war that started there. Can you imagine if we will give up this area of Judea and Samaria? There's not going to be a single spot in Israel not under control because these are the mountains. It's one thing when you're in the same level as your enemy. But now, when you're on the mountains, there's really not going to be a safe area in Israel. So, say that we declare the settlements as communities. If you want to call it settlements, it's fine by me. I have no problem with that, but I don't think it's the right terminology to use. These are communities. These are ancient communities rebuilt after 2,000 years of exile. The children of Israel are returning to their home. We need to live in this place. We need to strive in this place, and we need to connect with this place. And any obstacle in the way, we need to remember what happened when Jewish people gave up their area in the promise of peace. We were attacked, we were slaughtered, and we cannot allow it. This is the only Jewish state in the world. This is the only place that Jews need to feel comfortable at. And right now, the reality is we're not. So these areas are very important for us from the biblical perspective, but also from the security perspective.
So in the area where you live in Judea and Samaria, do you fear an October the 7th? You're already talking about like smaller terrorist incidents, but do you fear a full-scale October the 7th for you as well, with thousands and thousands of your community killed? Is that a fear? And are you doing anything to prepare against that?
So I would say it's more than a fear, Paul. I think that you will be shocked to reveal that after the 7th of October, there were surveys made here in Judea and Samaria, in the Palestinian areas, and they were asked, the people were asked, what do you think about the 7th of October? What do you think about the attack? 86% of the people, and this is a survey that was made by the Palestinians, 86% of the Palestinians said that they are in favor of the massacre, and giving the opportunity, they would do the same. And I believe them. I think that one of the biggest problems we had on the 7th of October in Gaza, that we never took them serious. And I think that when they say they want to kill us, they indeed want to kill us. And I'll think about it. If in the Gaza border, there was a 3.5 million shekel obstacle, what separates their communities, their towns, and our towns here is nothing. We have minimum fences. We have really nothing that separates between us and them. If they want to come and attack, they can do it any given moment. On the 7th of October, we were sure we're going to be next. I can tell you that I have friends, many of the people of Judea and Samaria went to fight in reserve. And I had a friend that called me and say, when they're going to enter our community, make sure to bring my wife and children with you to your home, because that was a real concern. And this concern does not end. And I can tell you that what we're doing here in the communities, and by the way, this is part of the work of CFOIC, Christian Friends of Israeli Communities, is to support those communities. We believe that we need to help them protect themselves. If it's cameras, if it's fences, if it's different lights, that we need to have the ability to protect ourselves. Of course, the army is surrounding us and there's a lot of protection around us, but we saw on the Gaza Strip, it's not enough. Every community has to have ability to protect themselves. We have first response teams. We have vehicles that are there to protect our homes. Again, what we saw on the 7th of October was nothing less than a massacre. We saw horrors like that only in the Holocaust. And for every Jewish person here in Israel, and I think for every moral person in the world, after seeing what we went through, surely the understanding is never again is now. And we need to protect our homes and families. We need to give the forces and the IDF the power to protect us and to continue to do that. But us as civilians, we need to have the abilities to protect our homes as well. That's the reality of life here.
Are you preparing safe rooms in your houses?
So this is funny. It's a funny question because one of the regulations of every new home, maybe 20 years ago, that every new home needs to have a safe room, regardless of my decision. So most of the communities have a safe room. And if they don't have a safe room in their whole apartment, we have shelters. But it is regardless of the 7th of October. It was always here, and we need to be prepared. I can tell you that there are some areas in Judea and Samaria that don't have shelters in safe room because they're old or because the houses there are not structures but caravans. They're finding solutions as well.
You are Christian Friends of Israeli Communities. What sort of projects do you do to engage with the Christian community?
Okay, so first of all, it's important to note I'm a Jew. I'm not a Christian. I'm an Orthodox Jew. And for many, many years, it would be a far-fetched situation to tell you that a Jewish Orthodox learned many years to be a rabbi. He's going to a church and he's talking with Christians. It wasn't something so familiar in history, but I can tell you that's what we do. We are traveling around the world and we're engaging with people. We believe this is a grassroots movement. It's not enough to, post a video on YouTube, which we also do in CFOIC. And it's not enough to just write posts on Instagram. We need to connect with the people. We need to come to share our story. We need to face questions. People are asking questions. They want to understand. And this is something we've been doing for 25 years. We were probably one of the first movements that connected Christians to the biblical heartland of Judea and Samaria. And we believe that it's a very simple connection. If you believe God, you believe the Bible, you should surely have a clear perspective of what I've just explained. To be honest, if you heard this interview after 2 minutes, you should have said, of course, that's what the Bible says. I agree with Shmuel. But sometimes it's harder for people to get it, to understand what are the borders we're talking about. So we have a lot of content. We have a website in cfoic.com. We travel, we talk, we engage. We're always looking for opportunities to engage with more. If there's pastors and churches that want to invite us, one of our speakers to come and share, this is something we would love to do, because really we believe that Christians around the world, that they have a connection to Zionism, they need to understand the full scale of the story. They need to understand that what they're being shown on BBC and CNN and all those channels is not the reality. And this is a war of explaining more than anything. And Israel didn't do such an amazing job throughout the year to explain the simplicity of the story. We're being blamed to do horrible things, and we were never attacking back to explain we are love and peace seekers. We want to live quietly in our land. We don't want to attack anybody. We're not here to fight. We've been exiled for hundreds of years, 2,000 years, and we're back to our land. And we feel the connections and we feel the devotion and we feel that we are fulfilling a prophecy. And that's something that so many people, so many Christian people need to hear and understand. And through the vehicle of CFOIC, Christian Friends of Israeli Communities, thank God we're able to showcase our story and to tell the reality of the way we live in and the challenges we live in. And many people, because of that, they support us, they donate to us, and they become our friends, because indeed we are doing God's work in the land.
Do Christians actually come and physically visit you in Judea and Samaria? And what sort of projects do they get involved with?
So in the general thing that we're talking about is humanitarian aid and safety, meaning that there are a couple of objectives of helping. Number one, people with special needs, older people, disabilities, people that are suffering from different medical conditions, people that are going through needy families. And of course, these are all humanitarian aid. This is classic, and every place has people that are challenged. But in Judea and Samaria, it's an even stronger challenge. Why is that? Because we do not live next to the major cities. When you live in a big city in Israel, you have everything you need around you. But when you live in an isolated community, 30, 40, 50, sometimes an hour and a half from a big city, all the challenges that a usual family has with special needs, for example, it's multiplied because of the challenges of the distance. And of course, what we talked about in the majority of this interview is the safety situation. And we do a lot to help communities with their safety and with their security, how to defend themselves and how to really be able to secure their homes. And of course, we don't ever do anything that's connected to weapons. We do not attack. We do not engage in any kind of military work, only safety. And I'm talking about the basic things from flashlights, and I'm talking about cameras, and I'm talking about thermal cameras, and I'm talking about just the very simple gear a community needs to protect itself. And I can tell you that in the last year, there's a lot of issues with fire arson attacks that were happening all throughout the region. So even fire equipment and medical equipment, all those kind of things that just to secure needs of communities, this is the main issue. So humanitarian and safety. And I think that when people begin to work with CFOAC and they understand how they really contribute to change lives and help people just live better in their homes, to secure themselves, sometimes to save life, the very compelling message that can be get received from the people of Judea and Samaria. And the other component, of course, and that's something very important for us, is we invite people to come and visit. Paul, it includes you. Come
Mm.
and see with your eyes the communities of Judea and Samaria. We are connected to dozens of communities, and you really get a red carpet behavior and welcome and hospitality from the communities because they know that the Christians' friends have been at their back for so many years. So whenever people come to Israel and they reach out to us, we really show them around and show them the reality of life here. And it's once you come and you see with your eyes, there are no doubts after that.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how good is the Christian-Jewish relationship? Is there a good relationship now?
What do you mean by now?
Well, over the years, we've had like anti-Semitism and things from the church. So, are you seeing a big shift and a change in the Christian relationship between Jews and Christians?
Nah, I think it's a different world. I think that what history brought us was a lot of pain and a lot of tears. And as I said before, for a Jew to connect with Christian, it was something that it was almost absurd, anomaly. It's like who does that? But throughout the year, there's a major change in everything. We've been doing it for 25 years. And I can tell you that I myself was exposed to hundreds and thousands of Christians that love Israel, care for Israel, their real friendship being formed here. And think about a community in Judea and Samaria that got assistance and got visits and got people, Christian people from all over the world coming to visit, to support, to say, we're with you. And that's what makes the biggest change when our community gets this connection from Christians. It really literally changes their perspective. Maybe the history indeed changed. Maybe what we were told, and of course, we had reason to be very suspicious about this connection and to see the results of the change and to see how really things have moved and shifted. It's amazing. And if you ask me, I think Judea and Samaria, more than other regions in Israel, have a real strong connection to the understanding of Christians because we've been doing it for so many years. And every community that work with us, and I'm talking about dozens of communities throughout the region, they understand how much these people, the Christians that come, have heart and love and support to the people, to the Bible, to God. And I think it changes a lot of the perspective. I'm very happy to be in this junction at this point.
What is your prayer for Judea and Samaria at this time?
Ah, good question. I think that what we see in the world today is really signaling us that major change happened. And of course, I'm talking about the recent election with President Donald Trump, that it was a vocal about changing the atmosphere and the mode of Judea and Samaria. We're talking about hopes for sovereignty. We're talking about hopes of basically burying the two-state solution. I can tell you that I came just a couple of days ago from Washington, D.C., and I participated representing Judea and Samaria in the new opening of the Judea and Samaria caucus in the Congress. And the way you hear Congress people and senators, bipartisan, talking about the importance of Judea and Samaria, the understanding of what we do there, what's our connection to the land, I think everything can be changing right now. At the first day of Trump in office, he already canceled decrees and limitations for people who are living in Judea and Samaria that were awfully, persecuted and blamed to do awful things in the region. He canceled it because he has a strong desire and love for Israel. He understands the connections to the Jewish people, to the biblical perspective of the land. And I hope great things are going to happen in Judea and Samaria. So my prayer is that in the next couple of years, we will see major changes in the region. If sovereignty is going to be on and the two-state solution is going to be off, I will say thank you, God. And I hope all of us are going to be secured and well in the region. Unfortunately, as we speak right now, there are operations, numerous operations in Judea and Samaria, because one of the biggest things that happened in the last couple of days is that from the terrorists that were released after the negotiation of the hostages deal, a lot of them came back to Judea and Samaria. So I'm talking about hundreds of new terrorists coming to the region. You can only imagine the fragile situation and the worry that we have here of those people are going to be engaged again in terror. So we hope that, as we said before, we'll be able to protect ourselves. We will have the army with us. And of course, we will have God in our side. That's the most important thing.
What is your website for people who'd like to know more about the work that you do?
Amazing. So we are CFOAC Heartland. That's the name. If you Google that, you can get to our website. You can get to our Instagram account. We have a Telegram channel. We have a YouTube channel that we post like constant videos of the situation here and a lot of other teachings. And I really hope that more people will follow and be connected to this initiative. And if people want to reach out to us, our emails and all our information is on our CFOIC website. And just like you found me, we're happy to engage. As I said, we're looking for churches and events to speak and to engage with people. And that's something that if somebody here is a pastor who has people under him that would love to hear about our message, we would love to connect and try to do our best to tell our story.
Well, Shmuel, thank you very much for sharing today.
My pleasure. Please come and visit.